Hi everyone and welcome to another edition of the Talk is Cheap Show, episode 123. It's a glorious day and we're live and direct here in North London, and I must admit I'm looking forward to this one. Special show today, two special guests, starting with, to my immediate left here, what can I say about this man? My resident expert, co-host, show analyst, former professional footballer, social media icon and influencer, also known as the Incredible Hulk, Mr. Curtis Shaw from Curtis Shaw TV in the house. What are you saying, bro?
Happening, bro?
Yes, that's an icon. I love
an
that.
intro, the check's in the post.
And to my far left, what can I also say about this man? He's joining us here, a man who manages to, how can I put it, make the smooth transition from mainstream media to social media, effortless ease. Being the consummate pro that he is.
I try.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, senior citizens, please give a big digital round of applause for Mr. Academics in the house, Jordan Jarrett Bryant.
What are you saying, brother?
What are you saying, man?
I love the intros.
Yeah.
You're actually getting better. Whenever you do an intro, I think, he can't talk that next time. He can't better that next time.
I don't know where
And then he
he gets the
does.
words from. I don't know. He's studying words and that.
I rate it.
No, yeah, listen, man, this is a great panel and I'm looking forward to it. But before we get underway, just a few bits of news and notes that I thought worthy of mention today. The first one, I'm going to start with Jordan Jarrett Bryant. He's the mainstream media guy in the house. I'm sure he's got a lot to say about this, but we've got to keep it brief. So, Monday, history was created. The first footballer in the UK leagues to come out as gay. And it seems to have, created, as you would imagine, a lot of stir. A lot of people have had a lot to say. The vast majority of it positive. Well, pretty much all positive. Your thoughts on that? Him being the first
Just briefly,
footballer in the UK to do so?
I think it's a monumental moment, more so for him than for football. Everyone's been talking about it being a big thing for football. I've always been a bit uncomfortable as someone that works in mainstream media at this kind of pursuit to finding the first male player to come out in this country and say that they are gay. Because you create an environment that does the opposite. It makes them not want to come out. You make it a bigger thing than it is. If we're trying to normalize that if you're a gay man, you play football, you don't create hype around it. So I think it's an important moment for him because he now feels like he's comfortable in doing his job. Football's a job. He can go to work and now be happy and comfortable and open about who he really is. I think for football, we need to just, after this week, I think move on. I don't think we need to kind of make a big deal of it. There are gay men in football. Cool, whatever. Do you. Let's create an environment whereby everyone can be themselves. So I don't subscribe to the idea so much that it's this massive, massive thing. I think the media have done a really good job of making it this bigger thing than it is. He's the first one, so I get why it's newsworthy. But I would like us now to just very quickly move on and the next person that comes and says they're gay, it should be a so what. It should be a cool. You know what I mean? But well done to him. Big up.
Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I think, like you said, it's not as big a story as it's being made out to be, but it is big for him.
Yeah.
And listen, I'm sure he's not the first. He's just the first to come out publicly, So, listen, football is an inclusive, it should be an inclusive environment, black, white, Asian, wherever, homosexuality, whatever. So, fair play to him for coming out, and I hope it makes other players feel comfortable.
Absolutely, I echo those thoughts entirely. And like you said, good on him. He was the first one to come out. It's very brave of him to do that. He's only 17, young lad. Jake Daniels from Blackpool, striker. I heard him speak on TV the other day. Spoke very well. Spoke very eloquently, very articulate. So yeah, enough credit to him, man. And like you said, I'm sure he's not going to be the last now. He's just broken that. Yeah. So yeah, I thought it was worth mentioning it, given that history has in fact been created with that, because there was. About John, was it Justin Fashion years ago? He didn't actually come out till later on. But, Secondly, I'll start with Curtis on this one. Your hometown club, Forest, they've qualified for the Premier League playoff game, the so-called richest game in history. Just wondering what your thoughts were on that.
Well, I'm delighted for him. In fact, I'm going to the final. I know a few of the players, and
you've not changed allegiances.
No, it has been a rough week, but not that rough. You know what I mean? No, listen, massive history. I think they've been over 20 years out of the Premier League. It's crazy how they haven't managed to get back there. I know a lot of people were talking about what happened after the game.
Yeah, I was going to
that crazy fan. I know he's been arrested for that.
I thought he was going to say you know him.
No, I don't know them brothers there, bro. No, I don't par with them.
For a minute, it was, I know that guy.
No. But listen, I hope they win the final. I think it'd be great for the city in general. Because they've got Nottingham Forest, Notts County. They're both big clubs, but they've struggled for a long time. So they play good football, great atmosphere at the stadium. They beat us. But I hope they get back in the Prem. I think.
Just quickly, then you touched on it. I was going to ask you that incident at the end there, which kind of marred the whole proceedings. But that was, listen, man, they're going to have to do something about this type of thing, aren't they? Because that was serious, man. He could have killed that guy. I mean, he literally ran at the guy full on. The guy weren't expecting it. Don't know if you saw it, Jordan.
I did, yeah. Just those.
And he's headbutted him, a running headbutt. And the guy, like I said, those are the worst types of collisions when you're not expecting nothing because you don't tense up. So he's just run through him.
Contrary to
taking him out.
For those that haven't seen it, a fan, when the pitch invasion happened at the end, fan came on and kind of headbutted. Was it Billy Sharp? Who was on the sideline.
He used to play for them, by the way.
He did. I've been saying for a long time, I'm not liking the general abuse that football fans give to players. And I've been also saying for a while that there's going to get to a point, guys, where a player or an official or manager is going to box a man back. It's going to happen. They're going to punch back. And I'm going to have very little sympathy. I'm not advocating violence, but if you're going to give it out, you got to take it. Yeah. And we're getting very close now to a player retaliating, and it's going to be nasty. So the whole invasion thing, it seems to be a big thing of late. I don't remember it happening as much as it happens at the moment.
Yeah,
it happens all the time now.
It's on the increase for sure.
It's got to stop because footballer safety has to be paramount. And as you mentioned, he could have done some real big damage to Billy Sharp there. And I think arresting him, is a bare minimum that should happen to him.
Terrible scenes. Right, let me just read out a super chat before we move on. It's from Shref. He says, what if Norwich beat Spurs and we beat Everton? Could probably happen, but probably not. I'm really sad we lost to Newcastle. Miserable, but hope Mikel buys more now, buys more players. So we're going to touch on that. So, we've got a lot to say about that. So those was our 2 news and notes and items. Thanks, guys, for your contributions on that. So moving on then, and we've got a lot to say about this. Arsenal's last game. Now, we're going to focus on the Newcastle game. Arsenal away to Newcastle. Now, we lost our previous game to Tottenham, as you guys all know. Very disappointing 3-0 drubbing, has to be said. We're not going to talk too much about that game in isolation, but we will mention it. So coming off the back of that extremely disappointing result for Spurs, we went to Newcastle in the knowledge that top 4 was still on, technically, but we had to go there and win. Something that, listen, wasn't out of the ordinary because we have won there in the past. We've actually got a decent record against Newcastle. We won there last season 2-0, and I think we beat them 1-0 the year before. So there was some hope. However, it didn't really work out that way. And in terms of the game, to use a boxing parlance, I would say we didn't lay a glove on them, man. It was awful. But right, so let me just go through some of the game highlights and key moments of the game. 55 minutes, Newcastle break, as they've been doing throughout that first 45, 50, 55 minutes, and we concede a goal. I think it was an own goal in the end, wasn't it? But I think, to be fair, the goal was coming, wasn't it? Because in the first half, Newcastle were all over us. Is that fair to say? Yeah, so go 1-0 down, you're thinking, oh my gosh, the worst has happened. Can we get back into it? So I'm looking for a bit of a response. Unfortunately, there was no response. I have to just keep it 100. Carried on, same way, and then 85 minutes, Newcastle score again. Bruno Guimaraes, a guy that was actually linked with Arsenal, he scored, and that was it, 2-0. Just look at the game stats. Possession, Newcastle 51%, Arsenal 49%. Shots on goal, Newcastle 16. Arsenal actually registered 11 shots, which did actually surprise me, because it didn't look like they did, I must admit. Shots on target, Newcastle 4 to Arsenal's 2. So I think it's fair to assume that we were behind the 8 ball in every department. Well beaten, very disappointing. I'm going to start with Curtis. He's closest to me, and I know he's had a lot to say. We hope he's going to keep his shirt on for this. Because he seemed to lose his rag and his shirt during his live stream. But yeah, your thoughts on the game, your overall thoughts. I mean, we're going to talk about some specific things as well, but your general thoughts on that game.
I mean, for me in football, you can lose games of football. It happens sometimes, but one thing I couldn't accept with that performance was it just looked to me like they wanted it more than us. And that for me is totally unacceptable. Newcastle had nothing to play for apart from pride and, you know, last home game of the season. We're playing for the Champions League. And I just didn't see a team there that believed that they could win that game. They didn't seem to be able to change. I was thinking throughout the whole game, like, Newcastle can't keep this up. There's going to be a time where we have 20 minutes and get on top a little bit. And we just looked shell-shocked. And we got roughed up. I was saying we're a soft team. You know, Joe Linton
for
running.
those of you who don't know, that means soft. That's Jamaican. It says soft.
Soft.
That means soft.
You know what I mean? Joe Linton's just running wild in
man.
midfield. Bruno, Callum Wilson's looking like Romario up front. St. Maximum's got Tomiyasu crip walking. I mean, man was dancing around the pitch. I couldn't believe it. But listen, for me,
I think I said on your stream that St. Maximum was eating up Tomiyasu like sushi. But I don't know if that's politically correct thing to say, but it's just something that come to mind on the day.
It was crazy, man. But I just think we looked like a rabbit in the headlights. To me, it didn't look like we'd recovered from the Tottenham game. I felt like it was hanging over us, and I felt like, come on, surely, like, even if you win this game, that Tottenham game's kind of irrelevant. You can still get fourth regardless of that Tottenham defeat. And it just looked to me like we've run out of steam, we've run out of ideas. The manager, you know, threw every attacking player on, it made no difference. We didn't really create a decent opportunity the whole game. And I think in the end, it's kind of levelled itself out, and we've kind of...
Question for you.
Wrong.
One word answer. Did we bottle it?
Yeah. 100%.
Right, okay. Right, I'm going to ask Jordan, but before I do that, another super chat to read out from Ben. He says, big up. If Pookie gets us into the Champions League, would you sign him over the summer?
I'd build him a statue, mate, if he gets us in the Champions League.
Right, Jordan, your overall thoughts of the game?
I agree with Curtis in that the most alarming thing about the game, performance-wise, but we didn't seem like we really understood what we were playing for. We didn't. It looked like watching the game. Do these guys know? Like, even if that was a normal Premier League game in October, it was flat. We weren't competitive. It was a distinct lack of quality. It was just it felt like even a training match. That would have been more competitive and intense than what I saw from us on Monday. If the first alarming thing was, this is our season here, and these guys are playing like we're on the beach and we've qualified for top 4 3 weeks ago. That was the first thing. The second thing that really concerned me was that even amongst the lack of intensity and intent from our team, it looked to me like we didn't know what we were trying to do. Yeah. I couldn't work out what we were trying to do. Are we trying to keep the ball? Are we playing counter? Are we crossing? Are we going direct? Are we building up? I was quite happy the fact that it was 0-0 until the first goal, because I was thinking to myself, this reminds me a little bit of 89 Anfield. Just stay in the game and get to the... Even if it's 0-0 at 80 minutes, I would take that.
Nick it one.
Yeah, because we just need one chance. Just stay in the game. But then when the second goal went in, it was game over. Even the first goal, I couldn't see us scoring 2 goals unless they messed up or make it. So the first thing was the intensity. Second thing was I didn't see what Mikel Arteta was trying to do. I couldn't work out what are we trying to do here. Even if I disagree with it, just show me what the plan is. That was concerning. Going into the game, I couldn't see us winning the game anyway. All the evidence was showing us we were going to get a draw at best. Evening games, bar Chelsea, away from home, our record is not good this season. Injuries, Ben White wasn't fit. Gabriel wasn't fit. Saka has not been fit for a little while. Newcastle's last home game of the season, they're on a decent run of form. All the evidence suggested to me that it was a game we were not going to win. At best, we could have got a draw. But going back to, again, Curtis' point about the Spurs game, I agree. I think it broke them. I think that game...
So you think they bottled it?
Yes. Because if it was another team, I've got to be real, I would say they bottled it. If that was another team, I would say they bottled it. So I've got to be real. I've got to be real. So yeah, but I think the Spurs game broke them. I think physically they looked like they were drained. And I just think we're seeing now, and I'm sure we'll get to the whole January thing in a minute, but it felt to me like it was maybe we're now 3 or 4 games. We've peaked too far for us. And I think we've tried our best, but we've ultimately run out of legs.
It's very disappointing. I mean, when you consider as well, we were 6 points clear of Tottenham in March. And to all intents and purposes, it looked like the 4th place was pretty much, it had opened up for us to take it. In fact, at one point on this show, Curtis, not so much you, but I was
going to say, don't you bring me into that. I know what you're about to say. 3rd place. No,
but I was suggesting that we could revise our target and maybe go for 3rd, because Chelsea were going for a very rough time.
3rd was never on.
A few weeks ago.
It was never on for me.
You say that now, not for you maybe, but a lot of people, and I'm going to admit, myself included.
I didn't understand why though, because for us to get 3rd, we'd have to not only go on a strong run, but then Chelsea have to capitulate. The 2 things were never going to both happen.
No, but Chelsea were going through a poor run of form, and that you were hearing stories that the morale in the dressing room
but then you have to
strong
then capitalise on that and believe that we can then go on a run. And I just didn't think we'd go on a good enough run to get 4th, but not 3rd. And just on the Spurs thing, can I just briefly say as well, the Arsenal fan base, I remember, were all laughing and all praising the club for getting that game against Spurs postponed. And at the time, I check the tapes, they say, back in the day. On our podcast, Forever Arsenal, on the VIP platform, I said to the guys, I don't think it's a good idea. We might have lost that game had we played it, because we had a couple of players out. We probably would have lost that game. But it's Spurs. There'd have been time at least to have recovered. And at the time, the whole fan base were like, yeah, hey, look at you, ha, ha, ha. We've delayed the game, we'll have players back then. I think it's backfire. I said at the time it will backfire. We should have played the game, and if we lose, we lose. But there'd have been 8, 9 games, 10 games to recover. So I think that was part of why I think Spurs fans were happy, because as they saw it, you guys pulled a fast one, and actually it's backfired on you guys. And I said at the time, I think it was a mistake. I thought it was embarrassing for Arsenal to get that game postponed with one COVID case I think we had? It was poor. So that game was not, I think that game has come back to haunt us, when again, it was in our hands to play it, do your best. If you get beat 3-4-0, when was that game? That was back
January,
in, that was January.
Yeah.
Come on, man, we could have recovered from then.
Right, another super chat here from Mark. The players look tired. If we finish, the players just look like they were tired out. If we finish 5th, I look back to the January transfer window. We sold Chambers and loaned out Ainsley Maitland-Niles, and never replaced them, and it's now costing us. Lack of depth, 13 losses. Thanks for that, bro. So you've said we bottled it. Both of you have agreed on that, and to be honest, I do agree. I think that it was clear to me at that game, Newcastle, watching it, there was no energy there. There was no bravery on the ball. No one was looking to get on it, make forward passes. And as I said before, I don't think we laid a glove on them. And to me, that speaks of a team that didn't really fancy it, or were not up for it enough, which sounds implausible to say, but it has to be said. It's the truth. Curtis, why was this? Who do you blame?
I think you have to blame the manager and also possibly the board as well, because it was interesting. Arteta said something in his press conference where he was sort of saying we did what we could in January, which I was kind of taking that as if he was saying, well, the money wasn't really there for me to go and strengthen this squad. But to me, listen, I've always said a lot of those players he got rid of in January, I've got no real problem with most of them going, because most of them weren't good enough. The only one we ever really argued about was Aubameyang. But for me, you look at Tottenham, and I hate to talk about them, but they brought in an elite manager, and they brought in 2 players in January that have made a big, big difference to their team. Kulusevski kind of completed that front three. Bentancur's helped them in midfield. You look at Bruno Guimaraes' performance against us and you think, well, we could have done with someone like him. How are Newcastle getting him? And we didn't make any moves in January. So I have to question from the very top all the way down to the manager and say, if you're a serious football club, if you really wanted top 4, why didn't you look at it and think, well, Partey and El Neni are at AFCON, Xhaka was injured at the time, and Ainsley was loaned out to Roma. Why didn't you go and buy a midfielder? You know, you tried to get Vlahovic. Was there not a plan B? Maybe you tried to get him, maybe not. Could you have settled your differences with Aubameyang until the end of the season? I know it's a discussion we've had many times.
Yeah, we did.
Tevez, it happened at Manchester City. Tevez fell out with Mancini, went away for 2 months, came back. They said, get to the end of the season, then leave. And he scored a hatful of goals in that 6 months. I don't think the football club really wanted top 4. I think that I think they would have taken it. I think they would have taken it. But I just don't think the Kroenkes were sitting there thinking, do you know what, we have to get this. I think they thought...
You thought they rested on their laurels
because
once they realised European football was there.
They were saying that the players were getting £500,000 bonuses. Some of the contracts had 20% pay rises. And also, I've said many times, Champions League football would have exposed this football club from top to bottom, because we would have then known, is this manager good enough against the best managers? Are the board serious with their investment, and are these players good enough to play at the top level? While they're in the Europa League, they can all hide a little bit. We couldn't get the top players because we haven't got enough money, you know. So I don't really believe. I think they want Champions League football maybe next year. They want another year to just build slowly. So I just don't think they were serious enough from top to bottom, and I think
that's interesting.
It came back and bit us.
Jordan, your take on that?
I've not heard that point before. I think it's a really interesting point about the idea of the intent. Did they really want it? The January window, I mean, I've kind of softened on my stance that I kind of pushed back a lot with the guys we did the podcast that January window was going to cost us. If the evidence, I mean, I'm a fair man. I give big opinions. I give my view. If I'm wrong, I'll hold my hands up and say I was wrong. The evidence suggests that the teams that did buy in January improved. Liverpool got Diaz.
Yeah.
Spurs with the 2 players you've named. Newcastle with the players that you've named there as well. Guimaraes is one of them. Chris Wood, I know he's not been great, but Trippier's had an impact. The teams that didn't strengthen in January have tailed off. West Ham, Arsenal, Man United. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So the evidence suggests that if we'd have brought a couple of players, cool. I don't think it's the primary reason that we've not got 5th, but I think I accept that it's 4th. Sorry, but I accept it's one of the reasons why we've missed out on 4th.
Well, we should say that mathematically it is still.
Oh, come on! We're not doing that.
Timo Pukki FC, yeah.
No. I'm just saying that to make it very clear that it is, as of this show being recorded.
Do you know what? Just before I finish my point, I mean, I would actually have a bit of faith and hope still this weekend if it wasn't for the fact that Spurs don't have to win to get top 4. Yeah. It's just a draw. If Spurs had to win to get top 4, I might be a bit like, boy.
You're thinking it might do a Spurs.
Something. Even a draw. Even Spurs can't not get a draw. Do you know what I mean? But
it's not beyond the realms of possibility.
It really is.
You think it is? Right,
under Conte, he's not having it.
He's not.
But I think the other factors why we've missed out on top 4 are because, one, our away record, and I said this to the guys on the pod. I said, I don't think it'll be not investment. I think it'll be our away form. Look at our away form pre-January. It was shocking. It got a bit better post-January, but when you think about it, going back to the point, marrying the 2 points about away form and not investing, you can't tell me this squad that we've got with no investment can't get a point at Southampton. You can't tell me this team can't get a point at Newcastle. This team can't get a point at home to Brighton. So even without players coming in, the current squad could have got another 3 or 4 points just by scraping draws. We could have got draws, and those draws would have seen us in top 4 by now. So I don't think it's the main reason, not the lack of investment in January, but I think it's a reason. I think there are bigger reasons. One, it's a young team. With the young team, you're going to get inconsistencies, and the pressure's got to them. 2, injuries and just having a long season. Okay, I know there's no Europe, but having a long season with a thin squad. Again, Arteta's choice, granted, it's taken its toll. But I still think this squad could have eked over the line and got top 4, even without. You can't tell me that you needed, I don't know, Vlahovic to get a point at St Mary's. I'm just not having that.
So you mentioned the squad there, and both of you make some very salient points. I've got to ask you though. I'm going to start with you, Jordan. Do you think the manager has been good enough? And before I do that, I should present you with this. It's the cap and we know you like to cap for Arteta.
Is that what we're doing? Wow.
And it matches his jeans, you know what I mean? So that's the cap, the AFTV cap. So you can put that on, and now you can start capping for Arteta.
Wow. That's how you got me. All right, okay.
So there you go.
No, that's fair. I've rode for it all season.
You humbled yourself a lot today. I'm
I'm a fair man, Curtis. I'm a fair man. I go big, but if I'm proven wrong, I'm a fair man. Has he been good enough? Good enough in what definition?
I'll tell you why I asked that question, all jokes aside, because my man Curtis here, he's been quite vociferous. He's been quite unequivocal. He said that the reason why if we don't get top four is because whereas Tottenham have a high-profile manager who's come in and he looks like he's on it and he's doing everything necessary, our manager has fallen short.
Yeah.
So what's your thoughts on that?
I think that Arteta has done the best that an inexperienced manager can do. I take the argument that if you get Conte in January, this Arsenal team probably is top four. I hear that. In that sense, Arteta is, but he's not Conte. Now you can be brutal and be like, let's go and get the best and let's move on. Okay, I hear that. I think there's been a lot of things this season Arteta's done that have made me scratch my head, and I've criticised him and called him out. There's been plenty of games that I feel his tactics have lost us. His man management at times I think has been poor, and I've never said he's the perfect guy or he's a top elite manager. He's got flaws. I've always said that, but I'm just a little bit less impatient in terms of I want to be back at the top. I want to be competing. I've seen enough in this manager to believe that he can take us forward. Now, the question really is, do we think Arteta can get us top four next year? That's where I think, I know we've got one more game to go, but I hope you invite him back for one of your debrief of the season shows.
We will.
Because the question then is, can Arteta can he kick on from fifth? Can he compete with Tuchel, Conte, Guardiola, and Klopp? And then even the anomaly of Ten Hag. And then the power of Newcastle. You want me to be real? If I'm to be, without seeing who we bring in, other things happen over the summer, if you were to ask me right now, Jordan, do you think Mikel Arteta can get Arsenal top four next year? My answer would be no. It wouldn't be. So then the follow-up question therefore is, then why are we wasting our time sticking with this guy now? Fair.
I know Curtis has got some thought. We're going to get to you in a minute.
That's fair. Yeah. But I feel he's got. I'm prepared to give him one more season with more investment to see if he can really mix it with the big boys. Some would argue he's blown his chance this year with no Europe, and I hear that. I'm not here with my usual vociferous self fighting for his corner, because I accept the evidence. Look at the evidence. It's suggesting that this guy maybe he's out of his depth. I accept that, but I'm prepared. Call me a fool. Maybe I'm a fool to give him another year.
Not calling you a fool. But
maybe I'm not. I'm captain. I'm captain. I'll give him another year.
Curtis, now I know I'm looking forward to this because I know Curtis has got some very strong thoughts on this. You don't think if things stay the way they are, which it looks like it in all likelihood it will, and we don't get top four, we're fifth at the moment. You're saying that you would part ways.
I think he's missed probably one of the best opportunities we've seen in years to get top four. I don't think you'll see a Premier League look like this for a long, long time. I think it's one of the weakest Premier Leagues we've had in years. Outside of Manchester City and Liverpool, I think most of the big teams, even Chelsea, they were supposed to be title challengers. They've had problems. Tottenham, let's face it, until Conte came in, they were all over the place. Man United is probably the worst Man United I've ever seen, to be honest. So, to me, we spoke about one game a week. He's had that. He had 150 million in the summer, the most in the whole of Europe. He's been at the club. This is his third season. We've had the most stability out of the clubs challenging for top four. You know, United and Spurs have got new managers. I don't see at what point do you say he's reached his ceiling. I look at Arteta now and I think, like you've just said there, I don't think he can take us any further forward. If he can't get fourth this year, how does he get fourth next year when Conte, who's one of the best managers in the world, has got Champions League, money to spend, time to work with that squad, Ten Hag, like you said, it's a bit up in the air. We don't know. He's
I must say, I
rated.
don't see them being this bad next season.
No, you
way.
can't imagine United will be this bad. So I'm like, we're Arsenal Football Club. We call ourselves the Arsenal. We consider ourselves a giant of English football. This manager walked into a squad that had just finished 5th and reached the Europa League final. Granted, Emery had a bad start to that season. We finished 8th. He then got the full season, and he still finished 8th. Now he's finished 5th. People are telling me it's progress, and at the start of the season you'd have taken 5th. But is it just he took us so far backwards that getting us back to where he was in the first place looks like progress, but you actually failed so bad that you're just back to where you was in the first place?
So when you really deep it comes down to this, because people say Arsenal should be. I find it interesting. People say Arsenal should be in the top 4. I'm like, okay, fine. If Arsenal are going to finish in the top 4, that means that either United, City, Liverpool or Chelsea have to not be in the top 4. We've got to get out of our heads, and this is not about dropping standards, we've got to get out of our heads that we're the Arsenal 15, 20 years ago. Wage spending, transfer budgets and managers acquired, there are 3-4 clubs, if you like, with those things factored in combined, I would argue are ahead of us. I think we're a Europa League team. That's just the harsh reality. We are a Europa League team. For Arsenal to have got 4th, that would be overachieving. We can do the whole, we're Arsenal Football Club, we should be challenging for Premier League titles, we should be amongst Europe's elite. Yeah, what does that mean though? The reality is, City should be top 4. Liverpool should be top 4. Man United should be top 4. So that means then it's either us or Chelsea. And who would you say out of the 2 of our clubs should be top 4? You'd say Chelsea.
The only reason I'm
not making excuses, I'm just saying.
And listen, I agree with what you're saying. At the start of the season, I said City, Liverpool, Chelsea, Man United. But Man United have fallen out, which means a spot presented itself. Now, you've just talked about wages. Our wage bill is bigger than Tottenham. We spent more money than Tottenham in the last few years. We spent 250 million. So surely we should have got that place ahead of them. If it's Man United, I get it. They've spent more, they've got better individuals. That's cool with it. I could have accepted that. But we've looked down our nose at Tottenham for a year, our little Tottenham down the road. All of a sudden, I'm looking at them, I'm going, this stadium's better than ours. Our paint's coming off the side of our stadium. They've got one of the best managers in the world. You know what I mean? They've got one of the best managers in the world. You look at those other teams now that we're trying to compete with, they've all got an elite manager. Man United's, we're not sure how he's going to work out. So I'm like, why are Arsenal accepting Arteta trying to figure out how to become a manager? He is improving. He is improving as a manager. I'll give him that. But I think the progress is too slow and we haven't got time to see if he's going to become a top manager.
So can I just say something as well? It's something that I was thinking about on the way in as I was driving in today. And I was thinking about the Newcastle game, and I was thinking to myself, you know what? Like, people shouldn't sleep on the likes of Newcastle, because we've spoken about United are not going to be as bad as they were next season as they were this season, and we've spoken about Tottenham, spoken about the other threats, but Newcastle, they could be a legitimate threat to the European place. I'm not saying maybe Champions League, but come next season, man, they could be a legitimate threat for the Europa League places. I'm liking the look at him, man. And all the elements are there, innit? They got the stadium, they got the fans, they got the money. And they've started attracting good players. We spoke about Bruno Guimaraes. The manager has impressed me. And let's face it, even if he comes up short, you know they'll just go out and try and attract another one.
And you've also got to factor in the anomaly of there's always a team that overachieves. So Leicester could do the madness next year. They could be back.
So I do take Curtis's point. Next season's going to be even harder.
It will be harder. It will be harder. I think he's amongst some real wolves. Next year, he's really with some big dogs.
I would say
he's got to overachieve significantly.
Shark-infested waters.
He is. And if he was sacked tomorrow and they brought in a bit of top man, there'll be no tears on my pillow. Let's have it straight.
So he's taking the cap off.
No. If there's a better man out there, sack Arteta. But I just feel that if you're going to sack him, they're not going to fire him. They're giving him a contract. They've invested a lot of money in him personally and the squad. They're not going to fire him. I do feel that next year I will be harsher on him. So next year I'm looking for him to overachieve. As you mentioned,
let me just stop you there. I've got one super chat. Sorry. And this is from Mr. Gupta, because I can't pronounce the first name. Sorry about that, bro. I don't want to butcher your name. We have progressed overall from last season, but it's short-term failure, seeing we were in the top 4 race, we got good wins, third highest in the league, we need to build on that for next season. Now, that actually brings me to my next question. So that's very poignant, that. Which is, and that will probably be the subject of the show. Right, so to all intents and purposes, we're looking at the table now. The table, they say, doesn't lie. It's looking like we're going to miss out on the top 4. We're likely going to finish 5th, as of the time of recording the show. So if that is indeed the case, and we do finish outside the top 4 places, given the circumstances you guys spoke about, would you consider that, even though we're disappointed at what's happened, and you've touched on the reasons why, Jordan, would you consider that abject failure, or would you consider that we've made a measure of progress?
I think it's a measure of progress. That's not to say that it's not disappointing that we've missed an opportunity. I think it's a bit more nuanced than, is it failure or success? I don't think it's failure.
Yeah.
I don't think we've failed. I think, and this is why people, I was saying to Cecil earlier on, people are upset about him getting the new contract. You have to understand, as a club, the remit was 2 things. Get us back into Europe and bring down the wage bill. So if your employer gives you 2 tasks and you tick both those boxes, you've succeeded. Now, we're fans, so we're looking at like the variables of change during the seasons, therefore social expectations. I'm keen to know from you guys in the Arsenal fan base, next year, do we do the same thing? I.e., the target, because we'll all do our predictions pre-season. Does the target stay fixed, and no matter what happens during the season, it's like, no, I expect us to get 5th, and then other teams implode and we end up getting 8th. Do you change your expectations as the season goes out, or do you say, no, what I expect at the start stays the same to the end of the season, irrespective of what happens during the season? Because we've changed our expectations because of what's happened at United, and Spurs have been Spurs, blah, blah, blah. I wonder, is that fair? Is it fair to change your expectations as the season goes along?
Curtis, was there a measure of progress, or for you, is it failure, or even abject failure?
I mean, look, the table will say you've gone from 8th to 5th, so there is an element of progress there. But for me, I consider it a failure.
Not enough progress.
No, I don't. I consider it a failure because for me, football and targets do change on a daily basis. For example, if you look throughout the league now, Everton at the start of the season would have said mid-table or challenge for Europe. Now they're fighting for survival. If they stay up, they will see that as some sort of success. At least we haven't been relegated. Liverpool wouldn't have expected to have been trying to win all 4 trophies. But if they lose the Champions League final in the league, they will be disappointed now. So for me, Arsenal, even though we would have said at the start of the season, top 6, I said it myself, if we get top 6, that's probably where we are. Opportunities present themselves. Things change every day in football. Injuries, new signings, change of manager, runs of form. You can't predict that until you see it happen.
But are you going by emotions? Because in the business,
that's facts.
But in the business world, if you set a target at the start of the business year, you don't factor in that may happen. You said, no, this was the target. At the end of the business year, what was the result?
Actually, yeah.
Are we as fans?
You know what?
Are we as fans
Jordan
emotionally
makes a good
invested?
point
So we
there,
change.
and I'm going to push you on that. So, are we not being a little unfair on Mikel Arteta? Because as Jordan alluded to there, at the start of the season, he presumably would have been given targets, and we would imagine that the Europa League would have been a target for us. So, if he's achieved that, I know you're talking about moving targets and opportunities presenting itself. Is it not a little unfair to now suggest that you might want to look at replacing a man that's met the target that he was set at the start of the season?
Look, the club aren't going to sack him because, unfortunately...
No, I'm saying you. I'm putting you on the spot.
All right, if you're talking about me, but you're talking about the target. That was the Kroenke's target. That wasn't my target.
Okay.
Right, so
your target, you said, was top 6.
My belief in what that squad and that manager was capable of was top 6. I want top 4, but I'm also a realist. I looked at that squad and thought, I don't see how we get top 4 with that squad. However, I didn't think Man United would be that bad. I didn't think Spurs would be that bad. I didn't think Chelsea would even... I thought they'd be in a title race. So with the way that season has opened up, I mean, you talk about in March we were 6 points. We were 4 points clear a week ago. Not in March, a week ago. We've blown a 4-point lead in 6 days.
But according to your kind of thinking and logic, we should be 3rd then.
Why?
Because if the idea is that other teams have imploded and had poor seasons, Chelsea have not been good.
No, but
we should be third then.
No, but
why aren't people vexed about us for not being third?
No, because I still think Chelsea, even though they've dropped off, we still haven't gone above the level that they've performed at. Man United have completely fallen off a cliff. Tottenham were horrendous until Conte turned up. To me, I just look at it with Arteta. Listen, if all these opportunities present themselves, you've had the most time, you had the most money in the summer, and you still can't take advantage of that, how are you going to achieve anything when these teams actually start performing?
Is there a guy
again?
you would bring in now? Is there someone that you think?
I would take, because people always say to me, throw names at me, right? I would take Roberto Mancini, first of all. Won the Premier League, speaks multiple languages, won the Euros of Italy, plays good football as well. I would take Mancini. I've always said I would like Zidane. I don't think that's realistic. I don't think he would come to Arsenal, but you know, he's won 3 Champions Leagues, 2 league titles. My outside, who I probably wouldn't go for, but even Patrick Vieira for me. He's played good football. He's a legend of the football club. I think the fans would rally behind him. But for me, I would go for Mancini. I think that one, I think you could get him away from the Italy job. They haven't qualified for the World Cup.
I'm going to throw a word at you now. It's been thrown at you in the past. Would you take him? Mourinho.
Look at this guy. See
Well, you were the two a year ago telling me. We should have got Jose.
You should have got Jose. You just told me the target at the start of the season. Yeah, I wanted Mourinho in 2020. I did, but it's changed. He don't want to say. But listen,
I'm playing devil's advocate. I'm being a bit mischievous here when I say that. Right, can I just read out a super chat before we move on? O'Malley, why does Arteta and the team struggle to come from behind? Only Wolves game. Have we come from behind to win? Only Wolves game we have come from behind to win. Could have scraped more points. And it's a question of tactics.
Sorry, can I just go first on that one? Because I think it's a really good point. Arteta will be here next year. Whether you think we should not, he'll be here next year.
He will.
There's many things that Arteta and the club have to address in improving on a 5th place spot. 2 of the key things for me are kind of the heart of that question there from the super chatter. The first thing is coming back from going a goal down. Our record on that is really, really bad. The second thing is raising the level of our worst performances. So what I mean by that is we've got to get better at playing poorly but still getting something from the match. Look at Arsenal's games this season. All the games that we've won, pretty much, we've won having been the better team and playing really well. Sometimes you've got to accept that today's a poor game, get out of a point. Just get out. He's got to get the team able to be resilient and able to get the team believing in, look, it's not our day today, it's on top. But we are getting out of here with a point. I think Conte, that's my concern next year with Spurs. He will be the master at telling the Spurs players, you won't play well every game, but I expect you to get a point out of most of them. And I think Arteta's got to improve on games where we've been poor, but yet we get something from those matches. He's got to build an inner resilience in this squad where we don't get run over and we're poor, we lose the game. Against Newcastle, ride that out and get a point. Against Spurs, ride that out and get a point.
You mentioned something there that is that I want to take you up on, actually. You spoke about resilience. Now, kind of leads me on to something I was going to ask you guys. So, resilience and fortitude and heart and toughness and mental strength. Now, in the aftermath of the Newcastle game, there were some very interesting comments made by Granit Xhaka, and I want to get your thoughts on that. But before I go to Curtis, I'm going to start with him. Let me just read out the comment so that we're clear. So Granit Xhaka, in his post-match interview after the Newcastle game, he said, and I quote, "If someone isn't ready for this game, stay at home. It doesn't matter your age. If you're nervous, stay on the bench or stay at home. You need to have the balls to come here and play." That's what Granit Xhaka said. Now, I've got some thoughts on this, but I'm not going to hog the limelight. Curtis, what was your thoughts on Granit Xhaka's post-match comment?
Let's be honest. What he's actually saying are real comments. What he's saying is the truth. If you ain't ready, don't come.
So the comment in isolation.
The comment in isolation is true. Where my problem is the guy that's saying it. To me, you should speak from a position of power. That means when you're playing well, you've performed, then you can look at other people and say, you didn't pull your weight. I didn't see Granit Xhaka on Monday against Newcastle. I saw Joe Linton. I saw Bruno Ramirez. I didn't see him at Tottenham either. I saw Bentancur. I saw Højbjerg. I've seen the 2 red cards and the 11 yellow cards that he's had this season. You know, I've seen a midfielder that, whilst he has purple patches, has ultimately never been good enough to push us to the next level. So in isolation, what you're saying, I totally agree. But I think he needs to look in the mirror.
Your problem is not the
like
message, it's the messenger.
Yeah, you can't be saying that.
It's a little bit like when Tony Blair about a year ago was talking about, he was criticising the government about their strategies for the lockdown, and there was a lot of support and agreement with what he was saying. It was a thing of, it's the right message, but coming from the wrong person. Because after what he did with Iraq, people are looking at him like, I don't want to hear that from you, bro, because when you were in power, you did a madness. I agree with Curtis. I think the comments in isolation, I think, were real. As a journalist, we've got to remember, he was asked a question. He would have been asked a question. So it didn't just come out of nowhere. He'd have been asked a question, and therefore he answered the question. But I totally agree with Curtis in that, bro. Again, you've had 1-2 games where the fan base get gassed about you, and he's been good in a lot of games, to be fair. But overall, you've been one of the main problems for this club. Player-wise, you've been one of the biggest issues.
You sound
at this
like Gary
club.
Neville there for a minute.
Me?
Gary Neville was uttering.
Well, but it's true. He has.
But you know what it is? You know what it is, bro?
Club.
I am gonna keep it a clean sweep, because, and some people may be surprised because on this show I've been accused of capping for Xhaka.
Yeah, there we go.
On this occasion, I was actually quite upset when I heard that, because I'm with you and Curtis. I'm like, bro, what did you do? Our 2 biggest games of the season, arguably. Well, not arguably, they were. Tottenham and Newcastle.
Missing.
And you went missing.
Yeah.
And we spoke about a lack of bravery on the ball. He was one of the chief...
you're the most senior player on the pitch.
Yeah, because did he put a pass forward?
Nothing.
Did you put a defence-splitting pass? Did you make a goal-saving tackle? Where was your leadership?
And it plays to the point about Arsenal players not dealing with pressure. Against Chelsea and the West Hams and the United, he was brilliant, because the pressure is not so much on in those games. The games where we really need you to kind of get on the ball and have an impact, I can't see you.
I must say, I was outraged when I heard that. I really thought, and the timing for me was all wrong as well.
So
it came across as a bit arrogant, a bit narcissistic. It came across as somebody that was looking to absolve himself from blame. And I said to a colleague, and we had quite a heated discussion, because he didn't all the way agree with me. He agreed with some point. I'm like, yo, if I'm in that dressing room and I've heard you say that, as soon as you get back in that dressing room, bro, I'm pulling up on you. I'm like, yo, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Name names.
Who
Who are you talking about? Are you talking about me?
Yeah.
Who is it?
Yeah.
You're talking about the young players and stuff like that. So are you going to really blame Saka, Smith Rowe, Martinelli, Odegaard?
Them man have
They've
got you to where
carried us
you
all
are
this
now.
way.
Yeah.
And now, big games like Tottenham and Newcastle, games where the older players are supposed to step up and say, you man,
We'll get
you
over the line. Yeah.
Them man were hiding.
They were missing, and then you got the cheek to go on national team. I
told you about this guy.
You did.
Didn't I remember you once compared him to Gilberto Silva.
You didn't, Laurie. You
rephrase
didn't, Laurie.
that?
Yeah, you did. Say it's not true. Can I just make a very brief point as well? Just final point for me about the summer. And again, we'll get to the summer when summer comes, and looking forward to new season. It's really interesting in that we have to. I reckon we need 7 players in this summer. We're not going to sign 7 players. I think we'll sign 3 or 4. Now, you're factoring in Bellerin coming in. I'm assuming we'll sell him. You're factoring in Guendouzi. I think his deal's been done, so he's going.
Already, yeah.
Saliba as well.
Hopefully comes back.
I think Lacazette and Nketiah go. So you need 2 strikers. I think we'll buy 1. I would buy a left back. I would make Kieran Tierney our second choice left back. I don't think he's good enough now, fitness-wise.
I think it's not the case of the talent.
Or you get someone to challenge him at least.
At the bare minimum, I think we need a backup right back.
Well, that's what Nuno was supposed to do.
He's not good. He's not a left back. We need a backup
What
right
is he,
back.
by the way?
I don't know what he is, bro. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan. He's young, so I'll give him a little chance. But we need. I think Suarez
He needs to
him
work
on.
on his throw-ins.
Listen,
He's doing the Bellerin thing.
If I was a coach, if I was a manager, there are 2 things in football that I would fine a player for instantly. One, or players. One, if you let in a goal in the first 5 minutes, the whole team's getting fined. There's no excuse for letting in an early goal. It means you're not
That's a
ready.
radical step.
It angers me when I see teams letting goals in after 3 minutes. What are you doing in the first 5 minutes? No. And foul throws. you can't foul throw. It's his third one.
Oh no.
Anyway, backup right back you need. I think we need at least 2 midfielders. Partey is injury prone. Let's have it right. I'm not relying on Xhaka. And you need at least 1 forward. So I reckon there's 7 players that we need to sign there. And I think it's going to be a big summer in terms of overall.
Do you know what? Can I just ask you one thing? I know you got to read that out. You said earlier, you don't think we'll get 4th next year if you was betting on it. So does that mean then you obviously don't fully believe in the manager? So why would you keep him?
I don't believe in the manager. I do believe in the manager, and as far as I think there's sprinklings of quality that I think he could maybe overachieve and outpunch some of the bigger dons. I'm clutching here a little bit, granted. I am a little bit. I'm not going to lie. But again, if he was fine and the club decided that actually you're right, this guy can't get us top 4 with the Sharks out there, I wouldn't be upset about that either. I don't want to get into a culture where we're sacking, and then you've got a new philosophy coming in and you're starting from scratch. I don't want to personally see that. Now, that may be me being naive. I'm prepared to wait. I know a lot of the fan base, we pay a lot of money. I'm privileged. So I get to go to the games. I get to go with my press pass. I don't buy those tickets anymore. I used to buy a season ticket. I don't anymore. So I understand if you're a season ticket paying fan, you want something near success now. I get that. I totally get it. You don't want to wait. I'm happy to wait and let him build upon what he's done.
Right, a couple of super chats to read out here. This one's sent in from a guy who calls himself Petition to Bring Back Mustafi. That's interesting.
Well, ain't
It would be better to get Europa League than Champions League. Building a firm foundation is much more important than rushing to get shoehorned by Bayern Munich. Interesting. There's another super chat here.
We'd get slapped.
We would get slapped.
I'd take Champions League football, but we have to ask ourselves as a fan base. I always say this: as a fan base, do we want Champions League football because we think we can compete, or just because we can banter off Spurs and United fans? And I think that's the reason we want to be able to laugh at. You're in Europa League, but really, I always say, I'm a man. If I go to a rave, I'm in a rave for 2 things: check gal and dance. If you're not checking gal or dancing, why are you in the rave? And that's Arsenal. We're in the Champions League rave, but we ain't dancing checking no gal.
Europa League, man, I just think we've looked at it 4 times and it's just...
I think
we don't even get going till about February.
It's
March,
long.
Man.
It's long.
No, but you know what it is, guys? I would say, with regards to that they say the league doesn't lie. And at the moment, anyway, barring a loss... day miracle. That's where we're going to end up.
Yeah, we are.
So that is where we are. Right.
But even if we did finish 4th, I'd still say we're a Europa League team.
And I agree with that.
I would agree with that too. I'm conscious of the time. We've only got a few minutes left. So we do have a game this weekend. It's the last game of the season. Arsenal at home to Everton. It is a big game, man, because at the end of the day, as I've said, anything can happen. But what we need to do is win the game. So
keep them honest.
Yeah. So Jordan, can we win the game? Because let's face it, Everton. It could be a situation where Everton will need something on that. I
think they'll be safe because they're playing time recording. I think they're playing tonight.
Palace.
I think they'll get something from that. I think so. I think they'll be safe by the time that comes. Let's assume they're not safe and they need to win the game. I'm concerned. not because they're better than us, but I feel
Pressure's
like.
On again, isn't it?
Well, I just feel like the Newcastle game, watching that, I feel like we've shot our load without being crass. I think I think we're done. I think we're limping to the end of the season now, and I think a vibrant Everton that need a point.
But last day of the season, full house. We're expecting the fans will be, I'm saying, listen, at the very least, man.
I think the fans will do their bit, but I think the players are literally running on empty. I think they are. Psychologically and physically, I think they've gone. So I'm concerned about that match. But I think we do have to win because, as you have said a few times now, I think it's done for me. But if any team can mess up this thing, any team can do it, it's Spurs. So I think we don't want to be in a position whereby Spurs lose 1-0 and we've drawn 1-1.
And you've also got to factor into the last game of the season. You get beat at home by Everton, man.
It's not a good look.
It's a terrible look, bro.
And it's a carryover into the new season.
Exactly. And it's
which
just
starts soon, actually.
After all what we've spoken about, to then go and lose that, at least the club can offer up the excuse that the Tottenham and Newcastle games were away games in hostile environments, and we fell short. But to lose at home to Everton last game of the season would be almost unforgivable. Curtis, what's your thoughts? Very quickly, because I'm...
Yeah. I am, because I think this squad mentally have gone. I think, and it's very hard to motivate yourself for this game, because on one hand, yeah, we've got to win, but most of that team believe it's over. We believe it's over. We're not expecting anything. So how motivated are they going to be for that game? They couldn't lift themselves for the North London derby or a must-win game against Newcastle. And if Everton do need something,
they'll be up for it.
They're going to be going crazy for that game. So honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if we drop points in this game. I think their heads have gone already, to be honest.
I'm going to disagree with you guys slightly. I think that there'll be enough goodwill in that stadium to get us over the line. But whether it'll be enough to get that top 4 is, let's face it, unlikely. But it's not totally implausible. So you've got to play for it, man. I think they owe it to the fans. They owe it to the club. You owe it to the shirt, man. You've got to go out there and perform.
Well, let's face it, even if they win this game, if Tottenham win, so what? Do you know what I mean?
Well, what I would say to that is, Curtis, we are where we are. The league does not lie.
It doesn't. But what I'm saying, you're saying they owe it to the fans. If they win that game and Tottenham win 3-0, that victory means very little to us. You would walk out of that stadium still feeling like...
Actually, that's a good point. So, say that is the case. It plays out the way we kind of think it might. Tottenham get what they need and get over the line. Because let's face it, they only need a draw. We beat Everton. So when the players do the traditional walk round at the end of the game, are you going to be hooping and hollering and saying, yeah? He'd be ripping off his shirt and throwing it out there.
Tell you that, man.
I know you got rap. I think there'll be a lot of disappointment, because I think we'll hear on our radio, what year is this? On our mobile phones, and we'll get the correspondence that Spurs have probably won 3-1 or whatever it may be. Yeah. But when the dust settles, and I know it's an unpopular view, there have been some positives this year.
There have been some.
There have been. I think once we kind of get over the missing out and it being Spurs, I think we can look at it in the cold light of day, and there have been some positives. We scored some good goals this year. With the Saka's come on and developed. Smith Rowe, I think until last 3 weeks, was our top goal scorer this season. We've got the wage bill down. The atmosphere amongst the fan base.
Ooh,
I know that's not very sexy. I know, but that would in theory, you think and hope, allow us to then invest properly in the summer. I hope. You know, I've not been to any of the away games, but I'm hearing, and even some of the home games I've been to, the atmosphere amongst the fan base and the club feels like we're one again, in a way that I think it was fractured.
It sounds like you're reaching a bit.
No, what? People say to me the away games, the fan base are really like enjoying it.
No.
Do you know what I mean? So there are some wins.
Listen, we saved some wages.
You guys are mugging the team.
No. To give you credit, you've very skillfully done that, because you've actually brought things around to, like we said at the top of the show. This show is going to be, you know, is it about abject failure or progress? So you've highlighted some progress made, and Curtis, you've had your say, and now we've got to come to the end of the show. And listen, I'm throwing it open to you guys. We're keeping the show hyperactive. You've heard what these guys are about to say, and they've said a lot. Do you agree with Jordan that, you know, yes, it is failure of sorts, but there has been significant progress made? Or are you on Curtis's, the sort of half-empty side, where he's saying, listen, man, it opened up for us to get top 4, and we failed. He sees it as failure. I'm kind of in the middle. I think, listen, we did fail in terms of getting top 4. There's no doubt about that. It was us. It was there for the taking. There was a time, like I said in the scene, where we were even talking about third. Anyway, that's all fallen away.
You was.
I was. Okay. But hey, man. But I wouldn't say it's abject failure, because we will be playing European football next season. That is, we do know that for sure. But listen, guys, let us know what you feel. Very quickly, gonna ask Jordan to let us know where you can find him on social media.
Find me on socials, Twitter, Jordan _Jordan J Bryan. My platform, Blackademic, is at the Blackademic, spelled BLAKADEMIK.
And my boy Curtis, who, congratulations, just reached 45k.
Yeah, man, yeah, I don't know, maybe ripping
blowing
the shirt
up.
Off, man. I think that's
Do it more, mate.
So this is one man who has had an element of success this season.
Man, yeah.
In fact, more than, let's give him a digital round of applause.
Big
up, Curtis.
Hey, don't leave me hanging, you know. Man, leaving me hanging there.
And Jordan, I just want to say, you referenced it earlier. We are going to have a roundup show once the season's done. So we'd like to have you back for that.
Anytime,
In fact, we
man.
might have another guest on too. I'm working on that. So, but yeah, guys, come to the end of the show. Thank you very much. Just seeing if we've got another super chat. I think we have actually. I don't want to miss it. Yeah, Kareem Springer. Saka will leave. Newcastle, Man U, Chelsea will spend. Need to buy an elite striker, midfielder, fullback. Come January 2023, not in top 4. Sack Arteta.
Fair enough. He's giving him 6 more months, though, isn't he?
Yeah. Listen,
More
guys,
than I would have.
we've come to the end of the show. Thank you very much. Appreciate all your comments, all your support. Keep watching, keep supporting. We'll see you next week. We're out.